Hey everyone, today we are going to be learning about how to find the surface area of a geometric shape. First, before we start, let's see what is surface area. Surface area is all the flat shapes on the outer surface of a 3D object. A surface area is adding up all the areas after you flatten out the 3D objects and all you see are 2D shapes. And this applies to all geometric shapes other than the sphere because you can't really flatten out a sphere, but we'll get into that later. Now, let's see how you can find it. So there are a couple different ways you can find it. And first you use this on all solid shapes with straight edges. All you do is add up the areas for all the object's faces, and then you can memorize each surface area formula, or you can memorize each individual 2D shapes area and add them up all together. The first way, by memorizing each surface area formula, it might be a little hard because there are many different shapes with different surface area formulas. However, if you know each individual 2D shapes area, like a square or a circle, then you can just piece those all together when you see the object, and we'll go into that later. Now, like I said, spheres can't be rolled out into a map or any 2D shapes, so its formula will be a little different. Now let's look at individual formulas. Some specific formulas, I have 4 here. I have the cylinder, the rectangular prism, the cone, and a sphere. So for a cylinder, if you roll it out into its flattened map shape, you'll see you have 2 circles and 1 big rectangle. So then to find the surface area of this, you find each area of each shape. So because the 2 circles are identical, you can find the circle's area and multiply it by 2, and then you add it to the big rectangle's area, which is length times width. And the rectangular prism, you can see, is made up of three individual pairs of rectangles: purple, pink, and green. And each area of a rectangle is length times width. So you just do length times width plus another length times width plus the other length times width, and you multiply this by 2. Next, you have the triangular prism. If you break this into its map shape, you'll see it has 2 identical triangles and 3 identical rectangles. So the surface area will be the triangle's area multiplied by 2 because they're both identical, and a rectangle's area multiplied by 3 because they're all identical, and you add those together and you'll get your total surface area of all the 2D shapes. Now, like I said, the sphere is a little different because you can't really flatten that out. So the sphere's surface area formula is always going to be 4 pi r squared. Okay, now that we learned the formulas and how to find it, let's look at some specific practice problems. So this one right here is a cylinder. If you roll it out into its map shape, you can see that it is made up of 2 identical circles, which is colored in purple, and a large rectangular body, which is colored in orange. So the area formula for one circle is pi r squared, but because you have 2 of the same circles, you'll multiply that by 2, and you can see that underlined in red. Now for the rectangular area, the rectangle's area is length times width. Now in terms of this context, what is the length of the rectangle? The length of the rectangle is the longer side of the rectangle. And the longer side of the rectangle actually is the circumference of the purple circle. Remember, circumference is the outside circle, the outside part of the circle, and the rectangle's length actually goes all around that circle. So its length will be equal to the circumference of the purple circle, which you can see here, 2 pi r underlined in orange, and then its length times width, and the width of the rectangle is the height of the cylinder. So if you add those all up after you plug the numbers in, you'll get 170 pi inches squared. And the units for surface area, like any other area calculations, is always going to be squared. Now let's look at the other one. The other one is going to be a cube, and a cube has the same squares on all sides, and if you flatten it out, you'll see it is consisted of 5 identical squares, each with 4 feet as its side length. the area of one individual 2D square is side squared, s squared, and the side length in this case is 4 feet, 16. Because you have 5 of these, you multiply 16 by 5, giving you 80 feet squared. And that is the total surface area of this cube, consists of 5 identical 2D squares. So today you learned what a surface area is, how you can find specific surface areas, and even looked at some practice problems on finding surface areas. Finding surface area is a very important component of geometry because you're breaking apart 3D shapes into flattened out 2D shapes so it's easier to work with. This is just a very basic component and it can be built off of in further lessons. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.